They say every connection leaves a mark. But what if you could see those marks? What if death left a glowing red line, a mark no one else could see, except me? These weren't just strings of love, they were cords of death, too. My name is Sinhun Hope. I've seen them for as long as I can remember. Not just since childhood. Since I was a toddler, I've seen red glowing lines between people. I used to draw them over and over in my notebook. Everyone thought it was just childlike imagination, except my mom. When I was just 8 years old, I saw something no child should ever see. My mother stabbed my father, right there in our home. She thought I was asleep. I saw everything. For years, I buried that memory along with the red lines that hunted my vision. I tried to be normal, tried to live like everyone else. Now I'm in college and living alone. I keep to myself, but the lines are still there. Red glowing threads connect strangers in the street, couples in my class, even my professors. They're called S-lines, at least that's what I call them, because they only appear between people who've had sex. But not all of them are harmless. Some glow brighter, and that's when I know. These are actually people's darkest secrets been visible to me. I revealed my dad's secrets in my drawing, and that's why Mom killed him, out of rage. But I couldn't live with the guilt that my father died because of this curse. I tried to end it all, over and over. Each attempt failed. I discovered I was immortal, cursed to witness every hidden bond forever. Well, if I couldn't die, I had to find the source of these lines, and anyone who had the same gift. The next morning, Detective Han, a sharp investigator drawn by an anonymous tip, arrived to investigate the case of a 29-year-old woman who was found lifeless in her room. He stands at my door, haloed in red threads of his own guilt. I slam the door, too ashamed to let him see why I've shut myself inside. In the afternoon, my neighbor knocks and drops off fruit. Dozens of red lines hover over her head, evidence of past secrets I'll never know. She leaves without a word, but drops a note. While reading the note, I heard about the case on the news. The reporter said that the victim was found with marks on her neck in her apartment, and according to the detective, there are clear signs of a break-in. While watching, I spotted a motorcyclist approaching the building and noticed that he only has one red line on his head. Hours later, a man in a motorcycle helmet prowls outside, only one red line glowing above his head. I watch in terror as he breaks into my neighbor's flat. I quickly called the detective to inform him of the incident. Then I took a knife and rushed to save my neighbor, delay the intruder a bit before the police officer showed up. As I left my building heading to the opposite building, I suffered a panic attack and collapsed. When she opens the door, she was happy to see her boyfriend, but soon notices that he has a different look on his face, and the man grabs her neck. Suddenly, I regained consciousness, but I was afraid and couldn't react. At that moment, he took the knife from my hand and stabbed me. My neighbor, seeing that I was injured, strikes her boyfriend, but he overpowered her. Just then, Han arrived and entered my apartment. Having seen my door open, looking out of the window, he saw the conflict. And just as the man was about to attack my neighbor once more, the detective pulls the trigger. Seconds before losing his life, he sees the line above his head disappear, and he smiled and said, "The line, it disappeared." There I was beside him, badly wounded. For a second, I wished I could die from this incident. But well, I am cursed with immortality. Detective Hang thanks me and returns my glasses. Suddenly, Kang Sone appears, and the detective discovers that his niece and I know each other. We were not only neighbors, but also classmates in the same school. After I used my curse to save someone's life that day, I started to see red lines as a gift and decided to accept my fate. I received a message from an unknown number and discovered that there was another person with the same ability. The next day, when Kang-son arrives at school, she discovers that Kim Ha-young, a bully who happened to be her classmate, had opened her locker and found a letter she received. Being humiliated in front of her whole class, Son attacks Ha-young and tries to get her letter back, but Ha-young knocks her down and starts hitting her. Then entered Lee Gyu-jin, our teacher, whose calm demeanor hides eerie smiles and secrets. She saw the two girls fighting, rushed and separated them. She later called Seon to her office and allowed her to go home early. When she opened her locker to take her items, she discovered a glass inside her docker. The detective on the other side was investigating Hee-won's apartment to find out why he attacked his own girlfriend. Han finds the storage room where he kept the suspicious items and realizes that the walls are completely covered in red line drawings. He goes back to the office to cross-check his records and find the reasons he wears glasses. Because Lee Ju-jin, the school teacher, said she doesn't remember him wearing glasses before. At home, Seon puts on the glasses she found at school. She started to see a line at the top of her head. When she looked at her uncle while wearing the glasses, she saw hundreds of lines and screamed and ran back to her room. Curious by her new discovery, she walks down the street while looking at people and trying to understand what those red lines mean. In her observation, she noticed that some lines are connected between two people and wondered what the link is between those people. After a few hours, Seon finally figures out what those lines mean and goes to school the next day feeling confident. At school, she discovers that her teacher, Lee Ju-jin, had no line on her head. She was one of the few people in that school who never had a relationship. She also discovers that Kim had countless red lines, and one line linked with a teacher named Bang Sung-jin. Seon had just discovered their dirty secret. What she will do with this secret will shock you. Meanwhile, Kim tries to bully Seon again, but this time, Seon stood her ground. She was about to leak her secret before I interrupted them. To defend Seon, I confronted Kim and threatened to throw myself off the terrace along with her if she doesn't promise to leave us alone. After almost losing my life, Seon warned me not to get involved in her affairs again. Such an ungrateful bitch. That night, Seon follows Kim to gather evidence about her involvement with the teacher. She manages to capture a photo of the two of them entering a hotel. As she sends the image to Kim, she replied, "If the image is leaked, only the teacher will be punished. I'm still underage." After reading this message, Seon had to think of another strategy. Then she sends the image directly to the teacher asking for 20 million yuan in cash. She planned to use the money to move to another city as she doesn't want to live with her uncle anymore, let alone attend the same school. In the bathroom, I noticed Seon is wearing new glasses that look like the one Jungmin's ex wore when he lost his life. So I asked Seon a few questions to confirm my suspicion. Seon admitted she could see a red line through the glasses. When I asked who gave it to her, she revealed that she found it by chance in her docker at school. I made her understand that the glasses could be a dangerous object to have and that Hee-won lost his life wearing it. Even after hearing this, Seon chooses to continue taking advantage of her newfound ability, as this was her best chance of getting revenge on the people who were bullying her. That night, Seon was at her new boyfriend's house when she received a message from her teacher asking her to meet him on the school roof at midnight to collect the money. What she didn't realize is that Kim was in one of the toilet cubicles when Seon and I were talking about the red lines. So she knows about the power of the glasses. Yeah, I didn't know she was spying on us at the time. Got to find out later. So Kim follows Seon to the arcade, and while Seon was taking pictures with her boyfriend, Kim stole the glasses from her bag. When she realized that her glasses weren't in the bag, Seon was furious and went back in to look for them but couldn't find them anywhere. Furious, Seon called me and accused me of stealing her glasses. While still trying to convince her I didn't take the glasses, she decided to go to school to meet her teacher, collect her money, and disappear. However, when she gets there, Seon discovers that he lied about getting the money and only lured Seon to try to convince her to keep their affair a secret. He said if the photo leaks, he will not only lose his job, but also his wife and children. However, Seon insisted on receiving 20 million yuan as payment. During the conversation, the man receives a message from his wife and discovers that she has already received the photo. Furious, he pushed Seon off the cliff, believing that Seon sent it to her. When I came to school that night looking for Seon, I saw her fall to the ground from the roof. Terrified, I quickly called the ambulance and accompanied Seon to hospital. When Han finds out that his niece is in hospital, he is deeply saddened and blames himself, believing that she tried to put an end to everything. But I assured him that Son was pushed by someone. The next day, when Jung-woo was asked about his wedding date and his plans, he informs them that he called off the engagement. Since he has separated from his fiancée because she cheated, Jung moves in with his sister and brought a rabbit as present for his niece. He told his sister he's only staying for a week as he plans to move to Canada in a few days. Next day, I went up to the terrace where the incident happened. I met Kyung-jin, my classmate. She was already there. Despite not being close to me or Son, she showed an interest in finding out who pushed my friend. Turns out she is obsessed with all kinds of investigations and true crime. During the break, Teacher Jung finds the glasses on his desk. Immediately, he wore the glasses. The red lines became visible to him. He was speechless and couldn't process what he was seeing. Suddenly, Detective Han enters the room and asks permission to talk to Miss Gin. Believing her student jumped off the roof due to depression, Miss Lee Ju-jin blamed herself for not realizing that Son was experiencing psychological problems. But the detective stopped her and said she was pushed. This is murder case, not suicide. He then asked her about the whereabouts of her student, Kim Ha-young, as he learned that she was stalking Son. My teacher said that Ha-young didn't show up at school that day. This makes everything more suspicious, the detective replied. To gather more evidence about the case, Detective Han decides to interrogate Son's boyfriend. He said that after those photos were taken, Seon went out desperately looking for her glasses. Watching the footage from the store security cameras, the detective sees the exact moment when Ha-young grabs Son's bag and steals the glasses inside. Later during dinner, Jung-woo wore his new glasses and noticed that his brother-in-law had a lot of red lines above his head. When asked about the end of his engagement, Jung said he came back home from work and found his fiancée in bed with his friend. Jung and his brother-in-law then step out to talk, and Jung discovers that he is having an affair with a resident of the building. When they both entered the elevator to go back to their apartment, Jung, curious to know where the red line was leading to, pressed the button for the 4th floor. As soon as the door opens, the red line points to the apartment where his brother-in-law's mistress lives. He tried to get out of the elevator, but was pulled back by his in-law, and they headed to the 10th floor. The next day, when he arrived home with his sister and niece, Kim finds a box that has been sent to the resident at Block 41 and decides to go downstairs to deliver it personally with the aim of finding out who his brother-in-law's secret mistress is. Some days later, the photo of Kim with the teacher goes viral throughout the school, and both students and teachers are shocked by the news. After losing the most important things in his life, Professor Bang Sung-jin was consumed by a sense of guilt and shame. So he decided to put an end to his misery and unalive himself. After visiting the crime scene, Detective Han came to school to see me. He asked me if I knew why his niece, Seon, returned to school on the night of the tragedy. At this point, I just had to tell him the truth. I told him to look for Seon's glasses. That will help him understand what happened that night. Meanwhile, Jung-woo stalks his in-law to a 5-star restaurant with his neighbor from Block 41. Determined to catch him, Jung called his brother-in-law and asked where he was. But Yang lies and says he was in a business meeting. After proving that his brother-in-law was a chronic liar, Jung leaves the vicinity. Hours later, Jung showed up at the hotel where his in-law was staying with his mistress. When Jung caught him, the man tried begging and to explain himself to convince his brother-in-law to keep the affair a secret until he was ready to talk to him. The next day, Jung-woo packs his bags to leave and says goodbye to his sister as he doesn't know when he'll get the chance to see her again. At work, while he was gathering his items, he received a message that said his sister had crashed into someone's car. After his sister discovered the gifts her husband sent his mistress, she furiously hit the mistress' car several times. She reverses back and hits her car again. While Jung was trying to calm his sister down, his in-law arrives on the scene, and instead of taking his wife's side, he rushes over to check on his mistress. Furious at this attitude, Jung hits his brother-in-law, but his sister stops the fight. As soon as the couple leave, Jung's sister revealed the truth to his brother. She told him that she was his mistress, as the supposed in-law is married to Chai, the accused mistress. Phew, what a twist! After finding his niece's diary, Detective Han discovers that the glasses she was wearing allowed her to see something that no one else sees. So he decides to ask me what those drawings mean. As I explained everything to him, he said that my story was absurd and ridiculous. That weekend, I got a receptionist job at Misan Hotel and spent the whole night at the front desk. While Detective Han and Oh Dong-sik, assistant detective, was discussing on all the information they have gathered so far, trying to unveil the culprit who pushed Sion off the terrace. By connecting the photo of everyone involved into a single mural, they came to the conclusion that Professor Song Jin put an end to everything because of his guilt at having pushed the girl. On the weekend, my 2 new friends from school visited me at my workplace. I have already introduced Lee before. That leaves out Jun-sun, our class president, who I secretly admire. I was shocked to see them here because minors are not allowed in the hotel. Just as we were talking, a guest came in, booked a room, and went up. Kyung-jin recognized her and said she works in the school's administrative department. Yes, she was right. Meet Mi-sung, a shy, meek office worker who dreams of becoming an actress. After spending a few hours alone in her room, Mi-sung returns home and watches the city with her glasses. While watching the TV, I discovered a new murder case. The victim was eliminated the night before. The culprit was arrested near the scene, and he confessed everything he had done with a smile on his face. I noticed he was wearing a pair of glasses identical to one Seon wore. Looks like these glasses have become accessible to everybody. On Monday, at the end of class, June approached me and invited me to accompany him to the school swimming pool. He remembered I said I liked quiet places. He wanted us to take the opportunity to spend some time together. From the first day we met, I knew he had interest in me, and I did too. We were just too shy of each other. Thanks to Kyung-jin, he found an opportunity to get close to me. When we got to the pool, I felt this urge to jump inside the water even though I had zero knowledge of swimming. Thanks to June, who quickly got in to prevent me from drowning. I'm in love already? While we were waiting for our uniforms to dry, we ate noodles, and I opened up to him about the red lines. I told him I and Teacher Lee don't have any red lines, and even though he hasn't seen this red lines, he believed me completely. I felt relieved. The following weekend, Mi-sung books room 206 at the Misan Hotel again, and while I was cleaning the corridors, I heard her shouting at herself while looking in the mirror as if she was staging something to tell someone. A few months ago, in that same room, Mi-sung found the glasses that gave her the power to see the S-lines, and since then, her hobby has become complete. Mi-sung's favorite hobby was watching the customers in room 205 through a hole in the wall. But when she sees Mr. Lee on the other side, she is surprised. Ever since she first saw the music teacher, Mi-sung fell in love with him, and when she finds out that Lee was meeting Callan, her boss, she was jealous and furious. At that moment, she goes down to reception to extend her stay until the next day. Then when Callan shows up to meet Lee once again, Mi-sung hits her with a fire extinguisher and puts on the woman's clothes to go meet the music teacher. Seeing his coworker in his room, Lee wonders what's going on and was even more confused when she started reciting the phrases she had practiced in front of the mirror. When Mi-sung comes towards him, Lee pushes her away and gets up to leave, but ends up fainting before he reaches the door. After taking the teacher back to bed, Mi-sung revealed that she put sleeping pills in his water and hugged Lee while she waited for him to wake up. However, she noticed blood stains spreading across the pillow and panics because the last thing she wanted to do was unalive the man she had secretly wanted all this time. So, when the red line disappeared, Mi-sung felt guilty and ended up using a stapler to hit her own body several times. Hours later, Callan manages to get out of her room. I saw her and quickly rushed to untie her. She then enters room 205 and sees Lee's body. When Detective Han arrived at the scene, he found Mi-sung's body and looks for her glasses in every corner of the room, but couldn't find them. I told the detective that Mi-sung always wore glasses when she was at work, and this glass has a way of messing with the wearer's mind. I told him that Mi-sung only had one red line that didn't connect to Lee, so it was impossible to know what motivated the attack. Detective Han decides to empty the bathtub where Mi-sung's body was found. In doing so, he finds her glasses and puts them on to see for himself the red lines that I was talking about. The moment Detective Han looked in the mirror, his eyes widened with horror. He flashed back to the day Seon was born. He was thrilled, but a few years later, her parents died, and he became her sole guardian. The responsibility was heavy and overwhelmed him. He fell into depression. Snapping out of the memory, Han returned to the police station, overwhelmed by all the red lines he sees on people. He noticed that his assistant only has 2 red lines and tells him, "We are truly different." Han himself is covered in a fountain of lines. Suddenly, a student from the same school walked in, visibly shaken. She came to file a sexual harassment complaint. I was having fun with my new friends. They planned a small surprise birthday for me. That was my first ever birthday celebration. June texts me, "Can we meet up alone?" before the party. I felt like life was finally rewarding me after years of being alone. Just then, I received an invitation for my own birthday from the same unknown number that texted me earlier. Immediately, I became anxious. The next morning, I went to school with one question constantly ringing in my mind. Who is this person? And why do they know so much about me? Detective Han was deeply immersed in the new case filed by the female student who came to the station to report a sexual harassment. She said she was training with a classmate at his house but slept off, and when she woke up, she felt something had happened between them. Han suspects she's lying because she said she'd never been in a relationship before, yet she had 4 red lines above her head. He and his colleague head to the school to question the accused boy. Coincidentally, Han runs into teacher Lee. He was stunned to see not a single red line above her head. "She's clearly someone with high morals," he said. When they sat down with the boy accused, he denied everything. "I don't know what she's talking about," he said. "We were just practicing." She fell asleep, so I carried her to bed and went out to buy some stuff from the market. Just as the interrogation ended, I ran into the detective to see he was wearing that glasses. I was so furious. I snapped at him and said, "I told you again and again, those glasses are nothing but trouble. Now you're wearing it and just strolling around like it's fashionable." We got into a loud argument, which draws the teacher Lee's attention. Whoa. What's going on here, guys? Why so worked up? But then we both keep quiet. Turns out, she can see the red lines too. Apparently, the glasses awakened something inside her. Back at the police station, Han questions the girl again. Based on the number of lines on her head and the fact that none of them were connected to the boy, he's now certain she's lying. With no clear evidence, he decides to drop the case. Later at home, I confronted Han and said, "So, you're not going to give me back the glasses?" He told me the glasses helped him solve the schoolgirl's case. She told me she was never in a relationship, but she had 4 red lines on her head. I nodded in agreement and said, "That's true. Just a week ago, she only had 1 red line." That puzzled Han. Something doesn't add up. Han and his partner head to Yu's house to investigate further. Inside, they noticed the bedsheet was brand new. That means the old one was likely disposed of. They searched the dumpster outside the building, and sure enough, they find the original blanket hidden in a black trash bag. That confirms something definitely happened. Han retrieved CCTV footage from the market Yu claimed to have visited. The footage shows 4 of Yu's friends visiting his place that day. And strangely, after leaving, each one had an additional red line above their heads. Detective Han arrested the student with 1 red line to interrogate him in the station, and that's when the truth unravels. Yu didn't do anything himself, but he plotted the whole thing. He spiked her drink with a sedative and let his friends do the rest. Later that day, Han rushed to the hospital. He was told his father escaped again, but this time CCTV shows someone helping him. Han rewinds the footage and was shocked to see it was teacher Lee. Worried, he runs to the hospital. Thankfully, his niece is still safe. Yes, his niece, Seon. She is alive and recovering slowly. Meanwhile, I was waiting for June as we planned to celebrate my birthday. We strolled the streets together. When it got late, he said to me, "Wait here. I'm going to grab something really quick." He zoomed off to buy a cake for me as a surprise gift. I stood by a mirror in the street, staring at myself in disbelief. I finally had a red line, just like everyone else. Suddenly, I heard a loud noise. I quickly rushed towards the direction of the noise and discovered that June collapsed on the ground. A metal rod had fallen and struck him. My heart shattered. I was devastated. I believed this was my fault, a curse caused by my power. Then I received a video message. In the video was my best friend tied to a chair. A voice said, "If you want to see her alive, come to the school." With no one else to call, I called Detective Han. We rushed to school together. Once we were in, we found ourselves on the same floor, but unable to see each other. I found my friend Jin tied up in a classroom. I ran in and freed her, yelling at the top of my voice, "Let's get out of here now!" But no matter what exit we took, we always ended up in the same hallway. So we decided to try going up instead, maybe to the rooftop. Han, on the other hand, found himself in a dark, unsettling room. He met a woman named Moon, surrounded by robotic, lifeless people. She was standing on a table with body parts, smiling. "Only one more left," she says. I finished off all the men who were connected to me, and I've erased the lines above my head. Now here's her backstory. She was once a university student, betrayed by a man she loved, who filmed her in a compromising situation and leaked the video to the whole campus. She was devastated, nearly ended her life. But that day, she ran into teacher Lee, who saved her and gave her a pair of glasses. "You want revenge?" Lee said. "Now go get it. Lee has been the one distributing the glasses all along." Moon spent years eliminating every man tied to her, and with every line that disappeared, her addiction grew stronger. Without warning, she kills another victim, a fast swing through the neck. Back on the rooftop, my friend and I are cornered. Suddenly, Jin puts on the glasses and says, "You know, I heard that if you die, your soul will spread and everyone will be able to see the lines without needing glasses." Then she lunged at me. I desperately tried to break the glasses, hoping to free her from the glass influence. At that moment, Lee finally reappears. This time, she's dressed in white. Her body is glowing with an insane number of red lines. I haven't seen this much in my whole life. She's holding Han's father by the arm and commands Han to finish him. "You've wanted to for years." Han lifts his weapon. He's genuinely tempted but turned around to attack Lee, but she grabbed his hand and collected the knife. She unalived Han's father, faced Han and said, "You're next." As she moves closer to Han to unalive him, Han kept shooting her, but was unable to take her down. I stepped in and pleaded, "Stop! Why are you doing this?" Lee explains, "Our gift is a blessing, but you're the only one who doesn't know how to use it. I'm the only one brave enough to set the truth free." I refused to follow her logic and demanded she stop the madness. So she tried to unalive me too, claiming that once I die, her energy will spread and everyone will be able to see the truth. As she raised her hand to kill me, I closed eye to accept my faith, only to open my eyes and see my long-lost mother on the floor. Turns out she shielded me and took the fatal blow. She tearfully apologizes. "I'm sorry for leaving you all those years. I had glasses too. It wasn't your fault. What happened to your father wasn't your fault." Out of rage, I rushed Lee, but she stabbed me as I got close to her. Immediately, the air turned red. A chunk of red lines exploded from my body and rose into the sky. Lee was happy with what she was seeing and tried to control the giant ball of lines. I quickly stabbed her with the same knife she used on me. She was surprised to see I wasn't dead. I guess she didn't know I had the gift of immortality as well. Then, there was chaos everywhere. The S-line has now spread. Now everyone, literally everyone, can see the red lines on their head. 1 year later, people have adapted. Society changed. People learn to live with the truth, even when it's painful. Sion finally wakes up from her coma. She and her uncle mend their broken relationship. There's peace between them now. But me? I have become a loner again. I had to walk away from it all. While I was paying my last respect to Jun Seon, I hear a soft voice calling my name. I turn. And there stands Lee. And that is where my story ends. Or perhaps where it truly begins. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more series like this one. Tap the bell icon to get updates, and don't forget to like and share the video. Question: if you were in Sin Hun Hope's shoes, what would you have done differently?